It had been many years since we went to Dunsborough, and as we drove into the town last February, we were quite amazed to see the growth that had occurred in the district during that time. A roundabout in the main shopping district is decoratively laid out with a variety of garden shrubs and brick paving slabs.
On our way to one of the shopping complexes, we came across a bed of roses. Being a seaside town, it was not surprising to see a number of surfboards on display. Dewson's, Coles and a great number of specialty shops attracted our attention as we spent time visiting these places now doing business in this very popular country township.
Our friends Ross and Muriel Smith invited us to share a villa at Whalers Cove for 4 days, so how could we refuse? 20 villas named after old whaling ships complete this pleasant complex, and although closely packed together, each one is shielded by small trees and shrubs and maintains its own privacy. A grassed area separates the villas from the beach, just 100 metres or so away.
Nice trees coming up.
The following day, we set off along Caves Road, heading to Canal Rocks. We pulled up at a vantage point a few hundred metres from the rocks to get a photo from the distance. Although there was a stiff breeze blowing, the water here was relatively calm. Behind us and below, the ocean lapped gently on the rocky shoreline at the bottom of a small cliff. The bridge over this natural canal between protruding rocks affords an excellent vantage point from which to photograph the channel. These waters are a very popular place for fishermen as well as photographers.
The following day we started out for Augusta, passing several forested areas. Our first stop was the beach at Hamlin Bay Caravan Park. The boat ramp was not in use when we arrived, and only a few folk were on the beach at the time. We saw a lookout platform, which we headed for to view the beach and the small island offshore. A small group had been out in their boat and were in the process of cleaning their catch on the beach.
Dune and headland rehabilitation was in progress. CALM, together with the local community, are attempting to minimise the degrading of the areas around the bay. As we made our way along a beaten track, we needed to keep in mind where we were treading. Part of the track was made up of very hard sand, ideal for scratching graffiti, which was obvious as we walked. We came to another lookout and could see further south around another bay and had a closer look at the island offshore. Several varieties of vegetation seemed to be struggling for survival in the rather hungry-looking sand.
Moving on from the caravan park, we were not long in reaching Augusta. Our first thought was for some lunch, and we soon sought out a small cafe. After lunch, the ladies visited a nearby craft shop, with planter boxes decorating the entrance. We then headed back to the car, which was parked in the main street, and in doing so passed this stone wall, which we thought was rather impressive.
Driving out to Cape Lewin, we came to the old water wheel, completely encrusted now in limestone. Water flowed along this wooden flume and cascaded over the wheel. The wheel in turn drove a crank, pushing a ram up and down to pump the water 150 metres uphill through a pipe. Built in 1895, the wheel supplied water for the mortar to build the lighthouse. Later, the water was used by the lighthouse keepers and their families.
Next, we visited the Cape Lewin Lighthouse, but unfortunately did not have time to enter the building. Walking up the road past the old caretaker houses, we had a close look at this majestic structure, which has served the ocean mariners for well over 100 years. The foundation stone was laid by Sir John Forrest, the Premier of WA, on the 13th of December 1895. The lighthouse is an important link in the chain of navigation aids. It stands 56 metres above mean tide level and commenced operation in 1896. The light is situated on the southernmost western point of the continent, where the Indian and Southern Oceans meet.
On our final day at Dunsborough, we drove to Castle Rock, about 5 kilometres out along the road to Bunkers Bay. This called for a 600-metre hike from where we had left the car to the rock itself. It was apparent by the vegetation along the track that a fire had been through this area at some stage, but nevertheless there was much new growth to be seen, and various types of the vegetation had not been greatly affected. The presence of a goanna on the track assured us that there was plenty of animal life here too. On reaching the rock, we spent some time climbing over its rugged surface before heading on to Meelup Beach.
We found a table and seat under a grove of shady trees overlooking the water and settled down for a morning cuppa. A few families were relaxing either on the beach or boating that morning. Before long our interest focused on several divers just off the shore. They seemed to be testing out their scuba apparatus. This was our last day in the southwest corner, and it was now time to head for home.